Hello, this is International Professional Communication. Information, decisions, and solutions is the focus for this week. We ask, how does the practice of business communication differ across cultures? On what basis should a business make decisions, and how does this influence its communication? Notice the focus on business communication throughout. When you look at the Varner and Beamer text, especially begin to focus on page 291. Impact of culture, high context cultures again, low context. We've had quite a bit of discussion about this to date in the course, but this goes into more specifics in terms of, as you'll see, who possesses the information, who is in the in group, how is it gathered. Information clearly is power. It is in every culture. But what is the power relationship? It continues on 295, formal, informal communication. For example, look at the bottom of that page. You can find out what's happening at a company by chatting online, reading a blog, exchanging emails with an employee, even if you've never heard the person's real name. Kind of interesting. I was thinking, how might you organize a blog or a list or a discussion for your target country? Anyway, we'll come back to some of that. Also think about privacy across countries. Soft, hard data, the different resources and sources, informal and formal again. And on the page 301, they begin information and knowledge management and associated decision making. When I think of information and knowledge management as it relates to technical communication, I of course think of our use of content, structured authoring. I think of our HTML, XML, the version of XML data that's used in our field, and so on. And this is definitely a means for companies to exchange information and manage knowledge. Varner and Beamer and their background is more closely allied with business communication contexts. So they are less apt to mention some of the resources that in technical communication we draw more from. On page 308, they begin the section problem solving and conflict resolution. Very important. How do you manage conflicts? We can think of all of the different cultures that we are in every day in our work here and our families. How do you manage conflict? Notice the different conflict management modes that they describe in more detail beginning on page 312. I appreciate their list on understanding ways of managing conflict on page 314. I appreciate their exhibit 8.1 on page 316. I tend to be, in terms of conflict management modes, up in that far top right in the collaborating side of things. But think about it in terms, again, of your culture, your target culture that you've been investigating. Look at Exhibit 8.2 on page 320. And again, conflict communication styles. Where do you fall? Where does your target country fall? And of course, as they say on page 321, actions are the best communication. Listen sincerely. Express agreement when you can. Identify common goals. Explain your position. Identify resolutions that accommodate cultural priorities. Really, really important stuff for this course and for your ongoing work. Okay, let's look next at the Canvas site for this week. You'll see to please read and discuss the chapter that I just skimmed through. Be sure to schedule a meeting with me. if you haven't already done so, either for Tuesday or Thursday on this week. In the course forum, consider the scenario that I share. Also, please respond to the discussion questions from your leaders this week, Ayanfe and Barrett. Here's the scenario in a little more detail. You're in charge of beginning a project in a foreign country where information is not credible, not verifiable, not trustworthy, and of uncertain accuracy. Using the information decisions using the information from Varner and Beamer Chapter 8 and other resources. Who will you consult? What will you base your decisions upon? Where will you go for data? How will you screen for valid information when it comes to you through informal channels? Now, I've used this scenario in this class before. This spring, 2017, hey, we are in quite the political climate. And so it used to be that I would say you're in charge of beginning a project in a foreign country. Hey, we could flip this around. Other countries are in charge of beginning a project with you and your business, and it's here in the USA, where, given all of the fake news, information may well not be credible. Here, it may not be verifiable, trustworthy, and of uncertain accuracy. How would you talk with your foreign partners? Who should they consult? What should they base their decisions upon? Where should they go for data to work with us? Hey, there's a great deal that can be discussed in relation to this scenario this week in international professional communication. I look forward to our discussion. Okay, there are options. Formal information comes from publications, obviously, observation, interviews, experimentation. More informal comes from the various options listed here, which are examples of hard data, which are examples of soft data. I also share this optional scenario, but you've been asked to implement a Tumblr blog for your target country, so you look at the different themes. Which would you use and why? Or, given the target country that you are working with, might you suggest use of a different tool? Why or why not? This gets again at the formal versus informal, a larger focus on privacy and security for some countries. Information, decisions, solutions. On what basis do you make decisions? On what basis do those in your target culture make decisions? Giuseppe Ghetto, professor, North Carolina, writes quite a bit about working from global users to local stakeholders. And so I want to share some of his guidance in terms of international professional communication, information, decisions, and solutions. And his special focus is on UX, user experience. And because a number of you are also interested in that, I share this slide set. So I'm going to go to that next, just a moment. This is his slide set, along with Kurt Saint-Amant, who's actually a graduate of our PhD program here. And their slide set is on designing globally, thinking locally. Sometimes people call this glocal or local and so on. An argument for design workflow virtualization. What they cover is looking at the global user experience research. And what is design workflow virtualization and thinking from global users to local stakeholders. In other words, is that global and local thinking at the same time, and what implications it holds for us. Those of you very familiar with user-centered design perhaps know of some of these resources. I'm just going to highlight a few of their slides as a means to encourage you to also go to this site and spend a bit of time with it. Designing with international users. And what is workflow virtualization? Distributed work of any kind in a virtual environment. Design workflow virtualization, some different examples, GitHub, usertesting.com, TreeJack. Those of you who have taken the Writing Studies 4662 course have used the GitHub as a means to support your own work as a repository for your code, interface design, user research. This is the slide that I'm next going to return to my own slide set and spend a little bit more time on. Giuseppe Ghetto and Kurt Saint-Amant here. Notice how they highlight local and technological, global and cultural, global and technological, local and cultural. Note the key points here in terms of again, it's that working across local and global, working across the technological and the cultural contexts. Local and technological, you're looking at what are the specific modes of expression, technologies that are readily available, user preferences, choices. If we look in the bottom left, local and cultural, what are the contexts? Is there geographic proximity of users? What are individual user expressions of cultural identity, beliefs, values? Okay, let's look at the right side. Global and cultural. What are the larger world contexts? The dispersion of users, again, that spectrum from, okay, you've studied this so much already, individual to collectivist identity formation, those cultural dimensions. And the bottom right, global and technological. What are the larger technological networks, information architectures, hardwired networks and things? Okay, this, I just encourage you, excuse me, as technical communicators, to use this, print this particular slide out, use it as a guide to spur your thinking throughout your work as technical communicators and throughout your study. He also includes more detail about how mapping this is to a particular persona. So now I'm just going to conclude this particular overview with just a little bit on the documentation for translation project. As you know, you should already be visiting with your partner at the University of Trieste. You should have last week exchanged visualizations of your personal learning networks. And now this week you get a draft set of instructions. You complete that. You should submit it to the Canvas site here, and you should also then obviously send it to your partner and receive comment back and forth. Now, don't forget to reflect on your work throughout this project, because while April may seem a ways away, it's not. And so, from this time point to when your reflection report is due, that's just a month. So please be reflecting at least a couple to perhaps 3 times a week on this project and how you're proceeding. Again, the detail on the instructions. Write a short set to help a non-technical audience perform a single task. Give the detail here. All of this detail is also, of course, on the assignment page for the Documentation for Translation project. Thanks, and I look forward to some great discussions this week, and especially to receiving your instructions, and I look forward to our one-on-one meetings. Thanks.